My name is Emma and I'm 45 years old. I have a high school daughter and a middle school son with my husband David. Initially, after getting married, we lived in an apartment. However, when our daughter was born, my in-laws insisted that we should raise our children in a spacious house for their sake, so we ended up living together with them. I wouldn't say that my relationship with my in-laws was terrible, but if someone asked if it was good, I couldn't confidently say so. My in-laws always sided with my husband and he relied on them too much. Even when it was evident that my husband was at fault in an argument, my in-laws would blame me because of these things. Living with my in-laws was not exactly comfortable. When my daughter was born, instead of celebrating her arrival, my in-laws made insensitive remarks like, "Oh, it's a girl. Well, she may be cute and all, but it would be nice to have a boy next time, you know." For an heir, they didn't even bother to comfort me during the physically and mentally exhausting postpartum period. I discussed my in-laws' comments with my husband. "Well, I mean, yes, only a boy can be the successor, right? So do your best to have a boy next time." He casually responded as if it was nothing. Seriously, is he an idiot? Doesn't he know how difficult childbirth is? I can't give birth to a child by myself. He should also make an effort. Inside, I exploded with dissatisfaction toward my husband. After several years, we finally had a baby boy, but something bothered me. He doesn't really look like me, does he? David was worried. True, if anything he resembles Emma more, don't you think? My mother-in-law said, thus confirming my husband's fears. Our newborn child didn't resemble my husband much. Based on such a trivial reason, neither my husband nor my mother-in-law showed any particular affection toward him. My husband has a younger sister with 2 boys of her own. Both my husband and mother-in-law showered my sister-in-law's sons with affection, treating them as their own grandchildren while ignoring mine. Even my daughter and son at a young age seemed to sense this disparity. Whenever my sister-in-law's family visited my in-laws, my children always wore a lonely expression on their faces. To prevent my children from experiencing any unpleasantness, I made an effort to take them shopping and distract them while my sister-in-law's family was in town. My husband and my in-laws did make an effort to treat the children as part of the family, and despite the difficulties, my children are now in high school and middle school. Looking back, maybe it was a good thing that we raised them in this spacious house, or perhaps I forced myself to think that way. One day when my husband returned home from work, he approached me with a serious expression. "We need to talk." David uttered. "What's the matter?" I asked, taking a seat in front of him. Awkwardly, he opened his mouth and spoke with a heavy tone. "I want a divorce," he stated. The suddenness of his words left me speechless. "I've been putting up with it all this time. Please set me free," he said, pushing me away with his words. "Set you free? It's actually me who's the victim here," I resented. I couldn't believe my husband's outrageous statement. Still, I desperately tried to gather my thoughts and respond. "Why the sudden divorce? We've never talked about this before, did we?" I continued. "I've fallen in love with someone else. I want to be happy with that person. That's why you and the kids are in the way," he said unabashedly. Lately I had noticed that my husband had been coming home late, and it did concern me. However, both of us were approaching 50 years old. I honestly never imagined him cheating at this stage of our lives. "So you've been having an affair?" I inquired. "It's not an affair. I'm serious about this," my husband responded with selfish and nonsensical arguments. "Whether he is serious or not, cheating is still cheating." He seems to have completely disregarded the fact that he's a married man with children. There's no point in talking to him any further. The children have grown up to some extent, and if I receive child support and get divorced, we should be able to manage somehow. So I said decisively, "I'll grant your wish for a divorce, but in return I'll take custody of the children if I and the kids leave. Will that satisfy you?" However, the words that came out of my husband's mouth were unexpected. "No, there's no need for you to leave. I'll leave instead." I was completely stunned by my husband's words. What is he saying? "You're living in your own parents' house without a doubt, and despite that you decided to leave, not me?" I asked, perplexed. Ignoring my utter confusion, my husband smiled. "Not only that, but his attitude seemed to suggest that he was doing me a favor by leaving. If you continue living there in my parents' house, your living situation won't change, and it will be convenient for you. The children won't have to change schools either," he replied. "I'm a little confused here. Why is it you who's leaving, not me?" Suppressing my anger, I asked, and my husband began to explain with a smug expression why Mom and Dad wouldn't want to be separated from their grandchildren. "Right, and Emma, you and the kids are prepared to stay in this big house, aren't you? Or do you want to become a single mother living in a cramped apartment?" he asked. "Well, of course, but I tried to object," my husband continued. "Besides, I also want to live a life with her, just the 2 of us." In the end, that was my husband's true intention, he said, saying he wants To leave because he wants to live with his mistress, it's ridiculous. I couldn't be around that man anymore. Fine, if you're going to leave I don't mind, but I'm leaving this house too. There's no point in staying in your parents' place when we are getting a divorce, I concluded. Suddenly my husband shouted in a loud voice, no, that won't work. Surprised by his sudden outburst, I asked, what do you mean it won't work? I was surprised. My parents are getting up there in age, right? What if something happens? I need you to stay here and take care of my parents. It will be a problem if you don't, he explained. I see, that's his true intention. Basically he wants to use me as a caregiver while he happily lives with his mistress. He is seriously spewing such self-centered nonsense from the depth of his heart. I can't tolerate that in any way. Wait a minute, what are you talking about? There's no obligation for me to take care of the parents of my divorced spouse, I objected strenuously. We've been married for almost 20 years and they were like your own parents, right? Are you going to abandon the parents of the family who took care of you all this time? That's irresponsible, David stated. Irresponsible, you say? I marveled. Besides, it would be cruel to separate the children from my parents. It would be too much of a burden for you to suddenly take care of 2 kids, my husband uttered. Well, if you continue living in your parents' house you save on rent and living expenses, I argued. Exactly, I'll be with my girlfriend and you'll be with the kids and my parents. It'll be all happy and wonderful, he added. My husband continued to paint me as the villain and present his selfish theories. Only you are happy in your delusional world, Mr. to see land. Besides, my in-laws haven't shown that much affection toward our children. Basically they just want me to stay at their house as their caregiver. You're gravely mistaken if you think I will accept such a selfish proposal. I will leave with my children, just the 3 of us. We are leaving this house as well, I insisted. Despite my assertiveness, my husband didn't back down. If you are leaving the house, don't expect any financial support. It will be your problem, not mine, David stated. This situation is going nowhere at the moment. Perhaps hearing our arguing voices, my in-laws came into the living room. Now both of you calm down, my carefree father-in-law said, trying to diffuse the situation. Our heated argument did not stop. With that in mind, I decided to inform my in-laws about my husband's foolish behavior. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, David is having an affair. He wants to divorce me and be with his mistress, I said without missing a beat. My husband retorted, but don't worry, even if I leave, Emma and the kids will stay in the house. Emma will take care of you both as well. He tried to calm my in-laws down. Despite David's parents always being on his side, it is now obvious who is to blame when it comes to infidelity. This time I expected them to scold him severely, but the words that came back from my in-laws were unexpected. I see, in that case we rely on you, my mother-in-law said nonchalantly. My father-in-law nodded. That's right. Well then, Emma will be counting on you from now on, he added. What is this turn of events? Could these people be insane? Do they seriously believe that I will take care of them after their son has cheated? I won't let them have their way any longer. At that moment everything I had been holding back burst out of me. Enough is enough. I'm leaving with the children. I won't stay in this house and I won't take care of you, father-in-law and mother-in-law, I firmly retorted. My statement made my in-laws furious. What did you say? Are you repaying the favor we've done for you with ingratitude? My mother-in-law snapped. That's right, my father-in-law added. If you're a daughter-in-law, it's only natural for you to take care of us, my husband responded with a frustrated face. Don't say irresponsible things, Emma. I've already told you, if you leave this house there won't be any division of property. It'll be your problem. Feel free to do as you please. David pressured. My decision remained unchanged. Ignoring my husband and in-laws, I left the living room. I decided to tell everything to the children tomorrow. With that in mind, I went to sleep. The next day I invited my daughter and son, who had a day off from school, to have breakfast at a restaurant, and we left the house early in the morning. We hadn't gone out as a family of 3 for a while, so the children seemed delighted. I want to eat this, let's share this and this, they said, excited and adorable. After placing our orders, I looked into my children's eyes and spoke. Listen, today I have something important to tell you. As I started, my daughter and son put down their phones and looked at me. I think mommy and daddy are going to get divorced, I uttered calmly. They both showed a momentary expression of surprise, but it seemed like my daughter quickly understood something. It's probably daddy's. Fault, right? She said with a smile. I was taken aback by my daughter's unexpected reaction. I never expected her to easily accept the fact of the divorce following my daughter my son also seemed to have realized something. It's probably daddy's. Fault, right? She said with a smile. I was taken aback by my daughter's unexpected reaction. I never expected her to easily accept the fact of the divorce following my daughter my son also seemed to have realized something, and continued, it's not just that, it's also his parents' fault, right, Mom? As I fought back tears, my daughter gently held my hand. Mom, it's going to be okay. We're not just children anymore. Can you tell us the truth? She questioned. It was as if they could see right through my heart. Speaking in a gent voice, I fought back tears and told my children everything. Actually, you know that dad is having an affair with another woman, that's why he brought up the divorce, saying he will leave and we should stay in the house, and then your grandparents, that is grandpa and grandma, told me to take care of them, I explained. Upon hearing my explanation, the children responded, what, why does mom have to do that? No, seriously, I've already thought he was crazy and he still is, mom. It's better not to have a proper conversation with him, it's just tiring anyway. We'll stick with you, so don't worry, it's going to be okay, they concluded. The children were on my side. I couldn't help but be moved even in such a situation, realizing how much they had grown without me noticing. When we returned home, my in-laws rushed over looking worried. Oh, thank goodness, I thought the children were taken away by Emma, my mother-in-law exclaimed. My husband angrily approached, standing tall like a statue. Where were you guys, he asked. Just out for breakfast, my daughter replied. Perhaps he didn't like our daughter's casual attitude. My husband suddenly lost his temper. What is that attitude toward your father, he asked in a commanding tone. In response, my daughter immediately fired back, you cheated and then you call yourself a father, how foolish. My husband couldn't say anything in return, his face contorted in anger with everyone present. I opened my mouth calmly. I told the children everything. I'm divorcing their father and leaving with them. Upon hearing these words, my husband and in-laws exploded in anger. What nerve, such selfishness, abandoning us and our care, how is this possible? My mother-in-law shouted. Then just leave yourself, don't involve the children, my father-in-law yelled. Hearing that, I firmly responded, don't involve the children. Well, it's their will to leave this house too, you know. My in-laws refused to believe what I said. What mom said is true, the children retorted. An idiot father who cheats and crazy grandparents who defend him without blaming him. It's impossible to live with those people. Seriously, my daughter continued. Besides, neither dad nor grandpa and grandma have ever cared about us. Don't act like a family now. We've decided to stick with mom, my son added. The harsh words from the children shocked their grandparents, unable to hide their dismay. Perhaps they never expected their own grandchildren to speak to them like this. As their faces turned pale, I continued, that's how it is. Thank you for everything you've done for us. As I declared that, my in-laws finally began to prostrate themselves. Wait, Emma, that's just too much. Putting aside taking care of us, who will do the household chores? My mother-in-law begged. Upon hearing that, my daughter rebutted the mother-in-law, you couldn't even handle the household chores and you used to bully mom. I need to be careful not to become a mother-in-law like you in the future, she accused her. If we stay in this place will end up just like them. Let's not waste our energy on them. Well, then I'll pack our things, my son chimed in. Even my in-laws were left speechless. The lifeless expression on my husband's face looked like a masterpiece. After the children finished packing, the three of us returned to my parents' home. Thanks, mom, we could speak my mind to those people and feel refreshed, they said to me. I'm truly glad I gave birth to these children from the bottom of my heart. I believe that afterward I hired a divorce lawyer and requested child support. It was a busy period, but I managed to receive the payment successfully. Since my husband was dumped by his affair partner, he couldn't make his dream of a lovely daily life with his new girlfriend come true and is still living at his parents' house. Rumors spread among the neighbors that my in-law's son left for his mistress, and now people are giving them the cold shoulder. Honestly, it feels like karma. Although we got divorced, I can overcome anything as long as I'm with these two. From now on, I will make sure to bring happiness to these children on my own. That's a promise I made in my heart.